I was in Dubai. Anybody been to Dubai? Yeah? Like it? Bit of a wacky place, right? It's wacky. I think wacky is a good place to describe it. Big. You know, big buildings and stuff. Anyway, I was doing some sales training over there, and my co-trainer was a guy called Paul. Yeah? And Paul had two problems. One of them was that he was half French, and the other one was that he was half Irish. Now, as a half Englishman, half Swiss person, I know what I'm talking about when somebody has a problem with their nationality. So together we were four halves of a mixed bunch, and we had a lot of fun making fun about each other because of our mixed nationality backgrounds. But I put it to you, half French, half Irish, that's pretty bad, right? I mean, that's got to be as bad as it gets. Anyway, Paul didn't think so. Yeah? And so we're going through the workshop, and Paul, he's in love. Yeah? Oh God, and maybe I shouldn't call him by his real name, but anyway, it's too late now. His name was Paul, and he was in love. He was just in love. He was, oh my God, he was so much in love. And there's no problem with being in love, you know. I don't mind when people are in love as long as you don't talk to me about it. It's like, if you're in love, be in love, but don't tell the world. But Paul, no, he was so much in love that he was telling the world about his love. And, you know, it was as much as I do not to have to see the photograph at any possible opportunity. Yes, Paul, she's gorgeous, you know. And it was very, very tough. And so we're in Dubai, and Dubai, what do you buy in Dubai? Gold. Yeah, if you have money, you buy cheap gold. And so Paul's going, oh, I'm in love, and I think I'm going to express my love with gold for my wife. And I said, Paul, that is not a good idea. That is a road that goes in a direction that is a bad idea. You buy her gold, what's next? You know, that's a slippery path you're on at the moment. I advise you against buying anything for your wife. I wouldn't even get her a bunch of flowers, you know. That's bad enough, but gold? Paul, that's a bad idea. You know, the Swissness was definitely coming up. No, absolutely not. And Paul said, no, I need to buy some gold. I said, well, Paul, if you won't listen to proper advice, I suppose all I can say is, we're in Dubai, you're in the right place to buy a nice piece of gold. And so he's asking all the participants about it during the, where do I go and get the gold? And they say, well, you got to go to the souk. And then he's getting worried. He's saying, yeah, but if we're going to go to the souk, then I need to negotiate. And so we go on to this whole thing about negotiating and whether actually negotiating for a piece of gold is actually negotiating or what is it. And a big discussion. And at some stage, Paul says to one of the participants, he says, look, when I go to the souk, I know I need to go negotiate, but what should I expect? What should I expect? And this discussion kind of took place in a room full of 25 people and guys from all over the region. Yeah. So a guy from Saudi stood up and he said, well, if you go to the souk, yeah, you need to get a minimum of 20%. 20% off the price is a minimum. And the rest of the class were going, nah, 20%, you get much more than 20%. Sit down, sit down. And the Saudis go, no, 20%. And there's a chap who said, how long? How long do you spend for your 20%? Was kind of swept under the table. An Egyptian guy stands up. He says, I'm from Egypt. 35%. 35% minimum. Yeah? Lots of the people are saying, no, 35%. You'll never get 35%. Other people are saying, that's nothing, sit down, 35% is nothing. Yeah? Then a Lebanese chap stands up. The Lebanese, famous for being the bankers of the region. Yeah? He says, I am from Lebanon. Ooh, 40%. Ooh, 40%. 40% off. He said, yep, 40%. And then a Jordanian stands up and he says, I am from Jordan. Everybody's quiet. Yeah? And I from Jordan say 65%. And now the whole room erupts and says, no, no way, no, not possible, not even at the souk. He says, I am from Jordan. I say 65%. Now, I didn't know this before, but within the region, much in the same way as Europe, different countries have different characteristics. Yeah? And in Europe, who are the people who would get the 65%? From Scotland, probably. The Scottish would get their 65%. Yeah? And the Jordanians are famous for getting their 65% if they really need it. And so there's a lot of discussion and argument. And so they say, no, that's not possible. The Jordanian says to the Saudi, he says, you said 20%. How long would you spend for your 20%? And the Saudi says, how long? I've got better things to do. 20 minutes for 20%. The Jordanian says, yeah, you spend 20 minutes negotiating, you'll get your 20%. He says to the Egyptian, and your 35%? The Egyptian says, well, I would spend 2 hours probably. Yeah, okay, for 2 hours you'll get your 35%. What about the Lebanese? How do you get your 40%? The Lebanese says, well, I'll spend a half a day sometimes going in and out and in and out and yeah, and get my 40% over half a day, 3 hours, maybe 4. The Jordanian says, you spend half a day, you'll get your 40%. I will spend a day and a night and then a morning in order to get my 65%. If you are willing to put into the time, you will get the percentage that you need. And so he said, if you control the time, you control the outcome. If the time controls you, then you can't negotiate because you have a big block working against you. He who controls time controls the outcome. And so everybody in the class is saying, oh, great, super, yes, okay, we agree with you, but who spends 1.5 days at the Gold Souk? And Paul, the Frenchman-Irishman, says, we do. I said, what? He says, we've got the time. We'll spend the time at the Gold Souk. You and me, Mr. Bertzel, he says. I said, no, you've got something wrong in that little grey cell of yours. I'm not going to go to the Gold Souk for 1.5 days. Me, beach, playa, sailing, surfing, dancing, the food, the great food, bit of shimmy on the dance floor, and no Gold Souk. He says, no, we're going to the Gold Souk because you have just taught these guys how to negotiate. You have to. All of the participants are going, he's right, you know, you actually have to go. So, oh, great. So we go down to the Gold Souk and spend a lot of time. So he discovers a piece of gold that he wants to buy, and then we start going into this shop and we start hassling this guy, this poor guy, and we start beating it down and beating it down and beating it down. And at some stage I tell him the story about how my father is English and how my mother is Swiss and how they met on an iceberg in a Norwegian fjord, which is actually not true, but I thought it was a pretty good story at the time. Yeah, and you got to, you know, the guy's from somewhere in the Arabic world, and he's saying a Norwegian fjord, an iceberg, English, Swiss. I'm confused. Yeah, so another stage we told him the other story about how Paul was French and Irish, and about how his parents met on the same iceberg, and we didn't know about it. Yeah, and I think he started getting a bit suspicious about that. And we were negotiating in a way where we would say, let me look again, let me look at something else, let me look at something else. We'll give you this price, we'll give you this price. And he'd say, no. And then we would say, let's tell you a story. And he'd go, no, I don't want to hear any more stories. I don't care where you're from, where your parents are from, or anything. I just want you to leave this shop. And we were going, okay, we'll leave. We walk out. And then we turn around and walk in again. We're back. Show us the piece of gold again. Yeah? All this time, there's a guy in the corner of the shop making tea. Tea. We're drinking millions of tea, which is cool for me because I love tea, whatever kind of tea it is. And this was really strong tea, mint tea, it was buzzing. The hair was standing up on end. And so the tea was flowing all the time. And we got to the end of the first day and we're at 55%. Yeah, 55%. And at the end of the first day, he says, you have to go now. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Never want to see you again. and we left. On the outside, there's a sign on the, you know how in some tourist areas you find a sign that says, we accept your money, blah, blah, blah. And this sign is printed up in 8 or 9 different languages. Yeah? Between us, we understood 5 of these different languages. And in all 5 languages, there were spelling mistakes and typos. Yeah? So we took a photograph of it. Yeah? Took it back to the hotel. There's a business center there. Walked into the bar. Anybody speak Swedish? Yeah. Russian? Yeah. Yeah. We found the other nationalities that we needed. We said, is this correct? And they said, no, not really. It's spelling mistake. Can you just type this up for us? And so at the hotel, took us like 20 minutes or so. We created a corrected version of the thing that they had on their shop window. Yeah? This is a tradable. A tradable from heaven. 9:30 the next morning, the guy opens up the steel gratings, yeah, and opens up, and we're standing there. Hello? He goes, ah! We walked in. Show us it again, yeah? Where were we yesterday? He says, no, I'm not selling it to you. I don't care. Yeah? French, Swiss, Irish, German, whatever, Swahili, wherever. I don't care. Japanese? No, don't care. Go, goodbye. And we said, look, we're not here to buy the piece of gold. Yeah? We're just here to do you a favor. Yeah? We want to ask you a question. This piece of paper is all incorrect. It's all incorrect. Yeah? And he says, so? Who cares? You're only tourists. I said, well, if this was Arabic, would you write it incorrectly in Arabic? And he said, no, of course we wouldn't write it incorrectly in Arabic. I said, well, there we go, you see. Well, it's incorrect in all of these other languages, which is why, you know, maybe you're losing business. Maybe you're losing business from people who are not coming in. Yeah? And he said, whatever. And I said, show us the piece of gold again. He took it out. I said, this is what we've done. We took out a nice photocopied, all new, laminated even, all ready to stick on the window. We said, this is correct. We did this for you because we like you so much and you listened to all of our stories yesterday. And he said, what, and that's all correct? I said, yeah. So if you are able to give us this for 65%, then we will give you this in return. Yeah? The guy brings over the tea. Yeah? He hasn't spoken a word in over one day. He puts the tea on the counter and he says, Abdul, well done. Off you go. I'll deal with it now. Yeah? He's a little guy with a turban and stuff, you know, and he says, I'm the owner of this shop and I've got a question for you. We said, what? He said, I'll give you 63%. Yeah? And the other 2% you will not get because otherwise I will lose all respect in the souk, who already know that you are from England, he is from France. And the Norwegian iceberg, I don't believe that, by the way. But all of my friends have been laughing to me about it already. So you will not get your 65, but you will get your 63. But tell me, who told you to come back the next day? And I said, well, it was a Jordanian. And he went, oh no, the Jordanians. And that was the end. So I don't know whether it's true about our brothers and colleagues from Jordan, but this guy in the workshop, he was a big guy, looked like he was from Yorkshire. Big chap, red hair, white skin, yeah, from very, very, very funny chap. And the moral of the story? He who controls time controls the outcome. If you don't have time under control, you can pretty much forget a lot about what is going on in your negotiation process. Okay? Super.